Okay, this video is to help you keep your triple track storm windows working smoothly. Now, I've been working on this window, and this one had a long-standing problem with the moving up and down the panes, either the screen or the window panes. And the problem was that it was too tight. So, for example, the screen was so tight that I pretty much had an extremely difficult time in taking it out if I wanted to clean it. For example, like to remove it, you would pop it out. But you can see there that the tolerance is such that that's a friction fit. And this is after I've already worked on this quite a bit. Previously, it would be extremely difficult to pop it in or out. And correspondingly, once it was in, it would be almost impossible to move it up or down. And that puts a tremendous amount of strain on the joints of the frame and everything. It indicates that there's a serious problem. Now, so there are a couple things to point out. One is lubrication. So where this storm window track runs is on this edge. It's not in the gap. So when you add lubrication, which is kind of an obvious thing on putting these up and down, spraying it in that track doesn't really do you any good. Okay, what you really want to do is put it on a Q-tip, your lubrication, which silicone is good, and then slide it up and down on this track. Okay, and you'll notice that that will produce a much better result. Okay, I have to get this so I can work it with one hand. Okay, the second thing is, on this particular one, this thing was so tight that when I took it out and made some measurements on it, okay, and what I found was the bottom piece was slightly wider than the top piece. And you can also get the feeling of this when you're trying to put it in. You have no problem, let's say, putting it in at the top, but when then it comes time to pop it in place completely, the bottom gives you resistance. And when you have to force it in, what it will do is it will bow in or outward the pieces that run horizontally, because that's the only way that they can take up less space horizontally. And when you're forcing it in, that's what you're doing to them, aside from taking a tremendous amount of force. So on this occasion, I had more time to look at this and try to figure out exactly why I was having a problem and then to fix it. So what I did was, on this lower piece, I filed down this section at the bottom, only because I noticed that was the worst offending area. Okay, so I filed it down because it was okay at the top, but then as you get further to the bottom, that's where it's binding. So to make it a little bit smoother, because a lot of cases these tolerances are just a very small amount of binding, so I filed that down on both sides. Having done that, I then found that this was satisfactory, putting it up and down. Now, you might only need to put these up and down, not frequently, but it still becomes a major hassle. Okay. The second problem I had essentially the same problem with one of the ones that had the glass in it, and they're really the same issue. It was tight. When I went to put it in, I got friction and it would squeak, for example. So in other words, when I release this tension here, this whole thing should pop out of the frame. But you can tell it's binding. And where it's binding, there's nothing holding it back from coming out except for the tension along this edge. So once again, lubrication should be on this thing, not in the track. And then once It is lubricated. It has significant weight, so it may go up and down. This one, I did try filing the edge of this, and I also tried filing the edge of the track just to try to make sure there were no rough spots or burrs that were causing this problem. Now, this, like I said, is heavier, so it can fall under its own weight even when it's not perfect. It's not like the screen. The screen is very light, so when this gets near the bottom, for example, all I have to do is let go of it, and for the most part, I can get it to fall under its own weight. Okay, and that's kind of a sign that it's okay. If you have a case where you really have to be pushing down on the lower piece in order to get it to move down, what you're going to find, or what I found on this one anyway, was that as you do that, you're actually just pulling out the corner, the miter corner. Now, the two corners on the storm window are supposed to be held secure by that barbed corner piece that holds them together, but that's not perfect by any means. And as this particular one, I only mention this because I had this particular side now is weak because of continually pushing down on this, and now I tried tightening that corner up, but I don't think I was very successful. But what I found was, just by lubricating that track in the right spot, this window can function, although I can't do it with one hand. But with two hands, it's not a problem. If I am releasing this to put it down, and I put it down very slowly, for example, then in that corner, if I then get to a situation where I need to push down on this to get it to close the remaining piece, I can open up that little piece. Now, that's not a terrible big deal, actually, because there's plenty of ventilation in the storm window anyway, and that little leak. But that's a little bit of a sign that that has been weakened. I can move that up and down just because it's weak. It's not worth fixing, actually, because I think this one is okay. So anyway, that's just a few hints on basically lubricating this in the right spot and removing any physical, if there is a window that's actually a little bit too wide, filing it down in a particular area where it's tight might actually improve it and restore its functionality. Thanks.